Hello, my name is Joe Aldridge, and I've been a type 1 diabetic for 7 decades.
And I'm Cam. I'm a type 2 diabetic, and you are tuned in to the Diabetes Our Way podcast, where we discuss all things diabetes related.
This podcast, we're going to share a few laughs, and you're also going to learn a lot as far as what we've experienced over our trials with type 1 and type 2 diabetes.
But please note, we are not doctors, and this podcast is for general information and entertainment. It is not any form of direct medical advice. If you or someone in your life has or may have any form of diabetes, please contact a medical professional. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Diabetes Our Way. I am Cam. He's Joe. As always. Thanks again for tuning in to us. Happy to be here, Joe. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well and kind of excited. The episodes just keep mounting and going on, and I think, what are we on, episode 6 now?
Yeah, episode 6. So it's coming along together. I know you and I, try to bounce on what are we going to talk about this week? What do we want to talk about? So I think this episode will be a pretty good episode. But things are going amazing. I heard that, you told me you got in some steps today or yesterday, didn't you?
Yeah, I did about eight and a half miles, about a little over 19,000. But due to some things with the diabetes and stuff like that, people might not know, but I'm blind in one eye and I can't see out of the other very well. And part of that's the diabetic neuropathy. Over you having a diabetes for 56, 57 years. And as you get older, you start to have pressure in those eyes and stuff like that. And your eyes start to dry out, and there's some things that can form there. So just trying to see if I can get along with hitching rides with people. And, I might have to start, hitchhiking this way in the city. And but, I walked quite a bit yesterday, and to me, it helps me. If I can't make it to the gym, you can do certain things at home. You might see a lot of these things as far as arm exercises, stretches, especially as you're a diabetic. As you get older, you got to really work on balance, and not having the left eye and not the perfect vision in the right eye. That there's a big fear there of falling. And so if you don't have good balance, or if you have neuropathy in your legs or feet, which I'm fortunate I do not, you can fall over pretty easily, especially, how the sidewalks, I don't know if they have all perfect sidewalks down in South Carolina, but we got some tree limbs that, roots that, push them up. And then also too, the concrete nowadays, seems to be, what I'd say, cracking away.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, we definitely have some, well, at least here in Greenville, we've got some good sidewalks. When I lived in Charleston, I could tell you not so much. Those were old cobblestones, old bricks, constantly tripping over them.
Yeah.
But
well,
what did that do?
Bloomington, too, and you probably know this in Greenville and that, it's a very active, college towns tend to be very active. Mm-hmm. And Bloomington's a retirement kind of mecca and stuff like that, tied to the university. And of course, we got the natural resources with Lake Monroe and the woods and everything else. And so you see a lot of activity. When I was on my walks, I saw a lot of other people walking on bikes, stuff like that, which is kind of good to see.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. I bet that did great for your blood sugar levels.
I was pretty even keel all day long. I will admit, though, I ate a fairly low-carb diet and stuff like that. Unlike today, me and one of my business partners, we went to eat, and I probably got a wrap that had too much carbs in it, and I, once again, underestimated, thinking that, I don't need that much, and sugars were a little bit high a couple hours ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, at least you're aware of it, and hey, you gotta sometimes indulge and enjoy every once in a while, as long as you're taking care of yourself, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
Yeah,
we're gonna.
I didn't think a chicken Caesar wrap would do that much, but it had a lot of dressing on it, which I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
calculate for.
yeah, and we'll talk about this later on in the show because it was something that you and I both talked about of that peer pressure and trying to fit in, with friends or colleagues when you have diabetes and you're out, whether at a restaurant, a group gathering, bar. So we'll get into that. But I wanted to share some amazing news on my end. So my last appointment with my doctor was in January. And in January, my A1C was 9.9. Crazy high. My blood sugar level was like in the 300s. My body mass index was at 41. So, and I was 270 pounds. I went to my doctor yesterday, and my weight is now 248. My body mass index is now at 37. And the best thing was that my A1C was at a 6.
Hooah!
Hooah!
That's good.
That's almost like pre-diabetes levels.
I know. Well, no, we got to get McKinley back on and let him determine that.
But I had a great conversation with him. My doctor was absolutely thrilled. He was happy to see everything's working out and what I'm doing. We had a conversation about the statins and if I needed to go back on them or not. He said, no, you're good right now. In fact, my liver enzymes were finally in the normal range, and they hadn't been in the normal range ever since I've been seeing them, which was great.
And that kind of goes back to that fatty liver concept
exactly.
that he's talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And so he's still keeping me on Trulicity, so I'm on the highest dose that you can have, which is like a 4.5. I've got to finish up my 3 milligram ones, but then I'll go into my 4.5. And now he says I can see you in 6 months. I don't have to see you every 3 months. So it's like that was great to hear. And yeah, I was just I walked out of that office and I was thinking, hell yeah, this is what I've been working for. This is great, and it's just great to see it's all paying off for me.
Well, keep the pedal down, from that standpoint, because you might go out and celebrate and back up a little bit, but you just got to keep going, keep the routine going.
Yeah, exactly. I will admit, I haven't been to the gym this week, but I went to the ocean on Saturday. It was hotter than hell, but got some work out there in the ocean because the waves were crazy. And then I played in a charity golf tournament for my company on Monday. So about 4 hours out there on the course. Not all walking. We had the cart. I played terrible. Don't ask me what I shot. But it's a good time, and I'm very pleased with myself and my discipline and what I've been able to do. And yeah, hopefully next time I see him, I'll be down another 22, 30 pounds and see where that A1C is, even further on. So for all of you people out there who have type 2 diabetes, it is possible. It is possible to still live your life, but you got to be disciplined. You have to have a healthy mindset. Watch what you eat. Watch your carb intake. And just get out there and work. I mean, you've got to be willing to do it. And if you're not willing to do the work, then it's going to be very hard for you to get your A1C lower. It's not just by diet alone. You've got to get out and you've got to work out and you've got to exercise as well. So, and just be disciplined with it. Now, that's not to say that I don't have bad days and, I may eat something that's not good and everything, but as long as you stay committed for it, you too can see the same results that I am. I mean, for me, being 270 down to 248 and having an A1C to 9.9 to 6 in a matter from January until July, I think is an incredible testament, and you can be done. So don't have everyone tell you that you're going to be type 2 diabetes forever. Yes, I'm still type 2 diabetes, but you can still become healthier, live a life that you fully enjoy. So that's my message to everybody out there. Like my hat says, "Vamos!" Right? Get out
Yeah.
there and start doing the work and start being healthy for yourself.
Yeah. Well, Lisa, I mean, when you were out there on the beach and on the golf course, you were sweating, and
Yeah.
so maybe you were losing a few pounds that way too.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's just been great, been wonders. So everyone who's kind of struggling with it, it can be done. You just have to be disciplined enough and want to make the change for yourself. That is the big key. Because if you don't want to change, you're not gonna change. Really, I mean that's really the gist of it. So yeah, very excited, very happy that my doctor was happy for me too. So
Yeah.
it's nice when all the people are telling you, oh, you look great, you look good, and then you go to your doctor and they're like, oh yeah, you've done some great work on yourself. So it's
Yeah.
been great. Yeah.
Yeah. If you
Any
don't want to,
any yeah, go ahead, Joe.
if you don't want to change, you're going to change.
Yeah. Have you
And
had
so,
any have you had any wins so far with your diabetes? Anything that you want to give a shout out about yourself or pat yourself on the back for?
no, no, just trying to figure out different ways to exercise and stuff like that. And so, just trying to be consistent,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the thing about it. And it's just one of those things where you got to grind out the tough times, and and then keep going during the good times.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely. And I'm
yeah,
40 years old for everyone. I know you can't tell because I have such a great baby face. It makes me look younger.
yeah,
But I'm 40 years old, so it can be done for sure.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
So I wanted to talk about. You brought up this interesting fact, um, talking about rose, like the flower. Can you
Right.
elaborate what you're talking about with that?
Yeah, I'm part of a bereavement group with our church here, and Nina, I won't mention her last name, but she's a grief specialist and stuff like that worked with hospice, and now works with St. Paul's, and she brought up this concept about if you look over the last, and we just say 30 days, a rose has the beautiful petals. Well, that's the positive that's happened over the last 30 days. Roses also have thorns, and that's the thing that you really stuck you, or you really are had a hard time with, and wish you could pull that thorn out. And then the stem is kind of the hope or the seed, and basically, what do you hope for the next 30 days or whatever time frame? Maybe it's the next day. But yeah, we just kind of talk about, you go around the room, and when somebody's lost a loved one, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a child, a grandchild, or whatever, you're going to go through those emotional things, and so I think that's the one thing, Cam, I would have you think about. If you look over the last 30 days, or well, maybe let's just go over our last podcast. What was the thorn that really stuck with you concerning your diabetes or concerning your life? If you want to share that, if not, you don't have to share it.
Yeah, I think for me, the thorn is probably my late night snacking is probably a thorn in my side, um, because that's the time, even after I work out in the gym and I'll have a good dinner, I could still be like watching Netflix or, whatever, and just thinking, I'm hungry. I want a snack. I want some chips or I want some pretzels, and it's that it's that craving. That craving for something that's not that great for you. And also, I'd probably say not seeing results as fast as I want to because I'm very much a instant gratification type of person. So I
You're
really like.
impatient.
Yes, I am impatient. Yeah. But I mean, if anything, that this has taught me to, is be patient because you're doing the work, and it was a good validation. So I think the thorn in my side was, yeah, it's like controlling my late night snacking and not being so impatient to have better results. What about you?
Okay. Well, the one thing I was going to say, I'd love to have emails come in from people that, and we could talk about the emails, but that might be something good to do on part of the segment next time. If you're following this and you'd like to email us or contact us, what was your thorn and what was your rose, and then what was your seed or hope? Because we'd like to hear from you. I think my thorn was, and this kind of happened to your Aunt Cindy, and I see it happen with a lot of diabetics that are type 2 or type 1 they've been grinding it out, and it mentally beats you down. Cancer does the same thing, and I'd love to hear from some people about that. It's like, how do you keep not giving in to that feeling of beating yourself up, of going into maybe deep depression, and ways that you relieve that depression and stuff like that. And I think that's the thorn that we sometimes have to bear. And I saw that over the past few weeks. As far as, gosh, sugar's at 200. I got to get it down. It's not getting down fast enough, going back to the impatience. But I think there's this, anytime you're dealing with a chronic disease, I think that it's mentally can be a bear of trying to get through that and be a positive way. And I just feel like it's, as a spiritual person, I just feel like it's the devil that's gnawing at you, just saying, okay, give in to me, give in to me. And that's where you have to really try to fight through that. And that's probably been my thorn, because, we've had a lot of stuff happening with eyesight, stuff like that. And those things, you go back and you think, wow, is this going to get any better? Is it going to maintain, or is it going to get worse?
Yeah.
So,
no, I can agree.
I'd love to hear
I can hear
people hear what they say.
Yeah, absolutely. Email podcast, diabetesarway@gmail.com. Still waiting on a few people to email. They said that they're going to email, so maybe I'll be on the lookout for them. We'll give you a shout out on the show. We'll read you. We'll read what your comments. If you have good things to say about the podcast, bad things to say about the podcast, we'll take it. We'll take an email.
Yeah. Well,
if you want to
share, on that too, Cam, I would say, we advertise it on LinkedIn and stuff like that, and my impressions on LinkedIn when I advertise the Diabetes My Way is going up tremendously. I had 70 with the McKinley deal, and previous to that was 14.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just, it's like anything. It takes a little bit of time. And I know there are a lot of other diabetic podcasts out there, but I think we've got a unique, I don't know if strategy is the right word, but I just think we've got a unique niche market.
Yeah.
Because we've got somebody younger at 40 with type 2 and somebody older. And I don't know how you track that, but I'm just wondering if I've got to be in the top 10 or top 5% of people that have had diabetes for 56, 57 years.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would
and still alive.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more on that. So, we talked a little bit about, we talked a lot about insulin on this podcast, from long-acting insulin to the different pumps, and we haven't talked about the pumps, but I thought, how about a little history lesson about diabetes insulin?
Well, do you want to do that now, or do you want to go through your rose and your hope?
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself.
Yeah, there's that impatience coming through.
No, I want you to go first with your rose and your hope.
Well, it was really good. We had a bunch of family members in this weekend, and my son's fiance's shower was wedding shower was this weekend, and so it was a lot of great things I heard from when we showed up for the shower. It was kind of a you know girl boy shower and thing, and that people are listening, and they're really enjoying it. The people that are listening, they're coming back and they're enjoying it, and they really like that. You know, they've got the concept from maybe they're type 1, or they got a family member that's type 1, or they're type 2, pre-diabetic and stuff like that. So that to me was a real positive from that standpoint, and just overall for all the stuff going through, I try to feel like I want to ask God to be present and the Holy Spirit to be present in every person I talk to, every phone call, every meeting, every encounter. And that, and I'm going to offer that as a sacrifice. And then guess what? I'm just going to accept what comes from that, good or bad. But, I want to not walk by myself. I want to walk with God and kind of, hopefully not be downtrodden, but also be a spiritual uplift to the people that I encounter. And so that to me was the positive.
Great. Yeah, I mean, positive wise, are we talking about the podcast, or are we just talking about our lives and diabetes in general?
Whatever you want to talk about. What's most positive thing that happened?
I mean, I think I named it, getting my A1C down from a 9.9 to a 6. That's the
Yeah.
most positive thing that's happened to me, and good to see my BMI go down as well,
Yeah.
which I knew was going to happen with my weight reduction. So I've got a goal to get down to a certain body fat percentage. So
Yeah.
I've got another set of goals I want to hit for the next 30 or 60 days to get there. So I think that was my positive thing. My hope is that I am able to maintain it while not going backwards like I've done so many times before, where I'll lose it, but then I'll gain it right back because I become undisciplined. So
Yeah.
my hope is that I will continue to sustain this lifestyle that I've created for myself and keep it going.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say my hope would be is that we start to get more people to listen and they find hopeful information and they can walk away from our podcast saying, at least, hey, I learned something today, and that guy's in the same boat I am, and I'm not alone in this daily battle. And so that's my hope. The other hope is that as all I'm going to say is it feels good to go to church, and I hope everybody comes back to the church.
Yeah,
So
and we also hope, not that it's going to happen in the next 30 days, but for a cure one day for
yeah,
diabetes.
yeah. A cure at least to one of the 19. That's the start.
Right, exactly. And, speaking of learning a little something, as I jumped ahead of myself, as you said, but a little history about insulin. And so it goes back to everything that we were talking about. So back in the 1920s, children and young people only had days or weeks or months to live. So while they were trying to do this, there was a doctor by the name of Dr. Jocelyn who found ways to allow people to live a little bit longer, sometimes maybe a few months, sometimes maybe a few years, but treating them with harsh diets. They're called the ketogenic diets. But on those diets, people basically, they didn't live. They just survived. They lost all their muscle. They lost their weight. They lost their fat tissue. So it was pretty grim before insulin came out. But in 1921, an orthopedic surgeon named Fred Banting who had just come out of the war, wanted to do some research. So he contacted a Dr. McLeod up in Toronto, Canada, and Dr. McLeod gave him some research space to do it, and then he gave him an assistant named Charles Best. And so Charles and Dr. Banting were asked by Dr. McLeod to work on some pancreatic extracts. And so they started working on dogs, coincidentally enough, and treating dogs. And so from their treatments, they found that they could treat dogs and help them survive longer by the pancreatic extracts that they were taking. However, those extracts weren't pure whatsoever. So that's when they met a pharmacist named Dr. Collip, who developed a method to create pure extracts from cow pancreases, from the cow slaughterhouses. So about 1921, Dr. Collip felt that his extract was pure enough that he could start experimenting on humans. So on January 10th, 1922, a young 14-year-old who was dying of diabetes was treated with the first insulin shot in a Toronto hospital. So, and from there, it just goes on to talk a little bit more about how, Toronto couldn't really mass produce it, so then they started working with different companies to start getting it more mass produced out there. So I thought that was really interesting. Another thing I thought was interesting too was the name of their dog that they were treating was Majori, which almost kind of familiar from one of the drugs, Monjaro. I don't know if that has anything to do with one another, but that's a little history lesson on insulin there for everybody.
Well, it depends on what kind of French accent you say.
That's true. That's true.
Now, the two things there. She can't do the podcast for a couple of weeks, but Dr. Deborah McDaniel, who's a pediatrician, she worked for the Riley Center, the Jocelyn Riley Center, Riley Hospital in Indianapolis, Indiana. And so, when you said Jocelyn, yeah, that's a lot of the diabetic care centers have Jocelyn in their name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the other thing is Purdue University, they were studying pig transplants and being able of the pancreas and being able to put that into humans, and they're working on those different cells. I think it's the Weldon School of Health, and I went up there a couple of years ago and donated a little bit of money, not a lot, but it was very amazing to see what was happening there. And of course, with Purdue being an agriculture university, a nursing university, pharmacy university, and it's interesting how those things all tie together, like right. You said. But you can look up Purdue University and diabetes and see the information there. I know I'm in Bloomington, Indiana, with Indiana University, but Purdue's got a lot going on up there, especially with their engineering, their nursing, their medicine and stuff like that. From that standpoint.
Yeah, I was even seeing that they're working on, like you said, different types of insulin and try to get a different version. I've also heard of an oral insulin. Have you heard of that they're working on?
No, not really. Not for type 1 diabetics, I don't think.
Yeah, but I think they're working on for type 2. For those who have to take it as an oral insulin. So they're still continuing to work on, diabetes, which is great, but hopefully I just want them to be able to get something that cures it.
Yeah.
Altogether.
But that reminds me too, the thing I like when I donated money to the Purdue facility there, 100% of my donation went to that research.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is one thing, whenever you get calls, first off, they can't call you after 9 p.m. Eastern time. It's a federal law. And so if they do that, be very wary of that. The second thing is that you can ask them how much of this money actually goes to diabetes research. How much of this money goes to heart disease research? Because they, by law, have to give you that. And most organizations, American Heart Society, American Diabetes Society, stuff like that, only a smaller percentage goes actually to the research. Mm-hmm. Most of it goes to where? The administration.
Right.
Those organizations. So if they found a cure, all those people, those associations would be out of a job. Okay. And so that's the one thing that I try to point out to people, especially my clients, is just ask how much of this money goes to the actual organization they're trading for, whether it's the flood victims in Tennessee or this and that, or Tennessee, Texas. The one that I donate nationally to is Tunnels for Tires. 95% of that money goes to veterans, spouses, first responders, police officers, firefighters, to pay off their mortgages.
Yeah.
And that's like 95%. Only 5% of your donation is going to manage the association. Mm-hmm. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So it is, for sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's just a little tip. We try to give you tidbits, everything, and that's one thing I would have you, when you get those calls, and everybody gets them, and how much of that money, and that's why a lot of times maybe donating locally, the money's going to go there, like Shop with a Cop, those types of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually got me thinking, because I want to try to do. I'm big into cycling, so I've been watching the Tour de France, watching the recaps. Love it. It's great.
Well, you're into the French people this episode. Toronto, Tour de France. You going to bring up wine next?
No. But it got me thinking, because George Hincapie, who lives here in Greenville, South Carolina, part of, Lance Armstrong's team there. He does a Grand Fondo every October here in Greenville, and you can do 15 miles, 40 miles, or 80 miles. I've done a couple years. I did 2 15s. I'll probably do another 15 again this year, but I thought about, riding in support for something of, diabetes. Maybe I can get something sponsored on my vest that I wear. So
yeah,
something I'm going to be thinking about here, to come in. I've got to get my bike fixed, and I got to get started. I got to get in cycling shape again, because it's very different than just running or walking. It's a lot. So it's very impressive what those guys are doing too on Tour de France. I'll just say that and leave it at that. It's amazing.
Well, yeah, and I see a lot of that here with the Little 500 Indiana University.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
It's basically 50 miles that they ride in less than 2 hours.
Yeah, and riding your bike is great for your diabetes management as well. You're getting out there, you're moving. So
now everybody here, we'll keep Cam up on this, but if he decides to do a higher mileage amount and stuff like that, he also owns a Harley, so you never know. He'll probably ride that bike versus the one he has to pedal. Let's say he did it.
No. No, I haven't got a chance to ride my Harley. It's been so hot lately. I just don't want to get out there. I don't want to be sweating.
I just don't want to put those chaps on.
No, never. So the last thing we'll get into today is talking about a little bit about peer pressure in group and company settings. When you have type 2 diabetes or type 1 diabetes, and everyone wants to be liked. I think I like to be liked. I don't know, Joe. Do you like to be liked?
I am, but most of the times I'm not.
But how to navigate that? It's like if you get invited out to go someplace. I don't think it's as prevalent as much today as it maybe was back in the day, or let's just say you're fraternity wise, right? Were you in a fraternity, Joe?
I was, but it didn't matter if I was diabetic or not. I was partying with the other animals.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah. So that was my young, stupid days. I think
yeah,
as you get a little older, you get, especially when you get into the business world, those college days are college days, and you do a lot of things that you regret the next morning. But, I think, the big thing is when you go into the corporate world, whether you've got eczema, whether you got in, and you're going out to there's going to be a picnic or whatever. How do you dress? Those types of things. It's you gotta. I think you gotta figure out how's the best way to. I don't want to say fit in, but for you to feel comfortable and not be embarrassed by whatever your condition is, and that can be very tough too, especially if somebody's developed or fighting cancer or this and that and the other. It's a tough thing from that standpoint. But there for a while, I used to have to go to the bathroom to do the insulin shots and stuff like that, and now it's to the point where I don't, I'll just go ahead and take a shot at a table, or I'll ask, "Hey, Cam, do you mind if I take a shot? I'm a type 1 diabetic," and so I think that comes with age. But I also think I heard this statistic. Let's see, 90% of the food in the stores today was not made 90 years ago. 90% but there are 90% more diseases today than there were 90 years ago.
Interesting.
So everybody's got an issue and stuff like that. So I mean, we're all kind of. I think now we're much more a bunch of group of misfits.
Yeah.
And, so we're more alike than we are not alike.
I would say too, in those company settings and things like that, especially from a type 2 diabetic's perspective, I would say know your limits. You can indulge, but don't overindulge.
Right.
Don't act like you need to be the life of the party. Of course, I'm HR. Don't worry, no Coldplay, CEO jokes going on this podcast. But I think just don't overindulge. You have a good time. Don't worry so much whether people like you or don't like you. In the corporate mentality, yes, you want to be dependable, you want to be a good team player and everything like that. And in fact, I've come to find most recently that a lot of people don't really like attending too many company events. And I was going to talk about it on an HR podcast I was thinking of is, should you go to the company, annual Christmas party or not? There's a couple different answers I like to give from my perspective in HR, and that is you should at least show your face because the company spent time and money putting this together and wanted to show appreciation for you. Sometimes if you don't show up to those things, to me it kind of says that you don't really you're not engaged in the company, culture. But then a lot of other feedback is like, why, my incentive is getting paid, and that's it. I'm not obligated to anything like that. But I think from an engagement standpoint, showing your face, when those things happen. But when they do, and you are a diabetic, I would say just be mindful. Check and see what the menu is. Maybe you can prepare what's going to be on the menu so you can practice. Okay, well, I can eat this. I won't eat this today, or I won't have this later on because I know I'm going to be having this at the company, party. Or hey, I know I'm not going to drink or I can't drink. It's same thing with any type of disease or diet. Everyone does these dry Januaries too, where they're not drinking. So I think everybody has a good understanding of what their limits are, and that's all I would say is, don't be that person who feels the need that I have to do this, otherwise they won't like me, or anything. Because then when you start doing that, you're not living your life for yourself. You're living it for other people. So just know your limitations. It's not and if anybody makes you feel uncomfortable about being a certain way or being diabetic or having some type of disease, there's always HR to go to. Just throw that little tidbit in there.
Well, you just there's
or have the conversation with them first.
Well, no, I mean, you don't have to agree or disagree with them. Just go find somebody else.
Yeah, true.
It's funny how many actually close friends you have, and you might be surprised in those settings is you will be able to develop a close friendship with somebody just because of a conversation you had with them. The thing about, like you said, the not going to these events, your company is only as good as your weakest link. And if they're not bought in, it's just like a football team. If you've got you don't have a very deep bench, or if you got some really weak links, pretty good chance that team, that company's not going to win. And so you have to be involved and treat other people like you would be treated, whether they're diabetic, whether they're fighting cancer and everything else. And there's an old saying, my dad used to say it, your grandpa Aldridge used to say it all the time, don't judge a man or a woman until you've walked a mile in their shoes. There's an old Suez Indians thing that said, don't judge somebody else until you've walked 2 weeks in their moccasins. And so, those, I can't go to the annual meeting anymore because there's 8 to 10,000 people there. And being blind in one eye, I have a real struggle in going into these conference rooms where you go from light to dark, especially if you're going down a major auditorium or a stadium like not Soldier Field, but let's say Bradley Center and stuff like that in Milwaukee, and all of a sudden you don't have great eyesight, and then boom, you're tumbling down the stairs, or you're walking and somebody walks right into you from your blind side. And so those are things that I have to be careful. What you'll usually see to me is that if we go to an event with my wife's work or whatever, I'll go in, find somebody that I know, and I tend to stand with them. If I want to meet other people, I'm going to stand close to the bar. Not saying that I'm going to drink. Maybe I just get a club soda. But that's guess where everybody goes? They go to the bar. So you can meet people standing there just at the bar and not really have to move. I agree with you too. Just watch what you eat. And here's the tidbit about alcohol. Hard liquor. Try not to put cola or tonic water, those types of things, because they've got high carbohydrates in it. That raises your blood sugar. But if you want to drink straight bourbon on the rocks or neat, if you want to drink, even vodka, and you can actually drink just, club soda and put some ice in it and a couple olives, and it looks just like vodka. Looks just like a gin and tonic. And people don't know the difference. And so, if you have 2 of those drinks, it will actually lower your blood sugar. But then once you have that third drink, it starts to rise your blood sugar. It does something to your liver. And now all of a sudden, and I wish McKinley was here, now all of a sudden your sugar starts to rise. Beer, what is beer? It's mostly carbohydrates. And so I always say, if you're going to drink a beer, drink a Mick Ultra, or drink one of those, low carb pale ales or Pilsner that does not going to, it's not stout. It's not got a lot of those hops in it and stuff like that, which are carbs.
Yeah.
And wine, I tend to drink a dry red blend, and that doesn't seem to raise my sugar as much at all. And then you can, you sip wine, you don't gulp it. And you're not doing, if you're doing shots of wine, something's interesting. So.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, I actually had a really nice Keystone Light the other day.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty tasty.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, what you're saying, like I was looking at while you were doing that, talking about that, I was researching some beers. Yeah, low carb beers are the best. So your Miller Lite, your Coors Light, your Bud Light, your Busch wine, red wine, white wine, gin, rum, vodka, or whiskey. They don't have any carbs in them. So
straight.
straight, yeah.
Yeah, what you get in trouble with is the mixers.
Yeah, but some low carb cocktails that they've suggested is a martini, so you can do that. They do say a vodka
Shaken or stirred.
I think it's all how you
That's a James Bond reference.
I was gonna get there. I was gonna say I think it all depends on how you like it, Mr. Bond. A vodka soda. They said you can do that with vodka and club soda.
Yeah.
And a Bloody Mary only has about carb count of 7 grams. So for those of you who love your Bloody Marys, it's a drink I could never get into. It always sounded tasty to me, but at the end of the day, no, I didn't like it.
Yeah,
So
I've had some in my day, but I'm like you. I don't know. I mean, if I'm going to drink a Bloody Mary, I'll just eat celery on the side and drink tomato juice.
Right, exactly.
Same thing with the screwdriver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, you're drinking pure orange juice, which is really going to raise your sugar.
Yeah.
So,
but of course, everything in moderation, is
Yeah.
what we always like to say as well. Everything in moderation, know your limits. Fun fact though, like when you are consuming alcohol, you won't burn any, fat. So always keep that in mind.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? Have we reached about the end?
I think we've done good for today. I think you said, so when's our next guest going to be coming on the podcast?
She wants a little bit of prep time because she wants to do some more research on the type 1 diabetes and stuff like that. So
okay,
I wanted her. She's listening to the McKinley one and stuff like that. So she feels like she needs to gather a little bit more facts, but she'll be fine.
Okay.
So my sugar is 207.
All right. I am actually sitting at a 78 right now.
Well, look at you. The last 2 weeks I've been failing. So, but that's like I said, I should have ate a salad for lunch.
Yeah, but anyways, everybody, listen to us on YouTube, Diabetes Our Way podcast. Also email the show, diabetesOurWay@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram, our Facebook page. We'd love to see comments, love to see likes, love to see emails. But thank you all for the support as well. We'll try to continue to keep this entertaining for y'all and try to talk about any topics. If there's anything that you would like for us to cover, please feel free, give us a comment, shoot us a DM, slide into our DMs. I don't know.
Yeah.
And we'd love to hear from you. So
and we're still working on trying to get it on iTunes and Spotify, right?
Yeah. Which it'll be pretty easy. It just some logistic things going on right now.
He's the IT guy. I'm not. So,
But and my last message, to everyone today is that continue to keep with whatever goals you got going on. As an impatient person who likes to see results, it is working. Just keep at it. You can do it. You too can get your A1C down to where you want it. Just have the discipline and eat right, work out, and have a good support system, in your place too. Joe, any good final words that you want to share for all those type 1s out there?
Now, just make sure you're following. Adjust as you need to adjust, but don't over adjust so that you get the what I call the stock market effect, where you're high and then you're low, you're high and you're low. That's the big thing. I think where the Dexcom and those types of things can help you keep a much more even keel. And like I'm battling right now is I'm a little bit high, and I don't want to over-inject quick-acting insulin and then go too low and then have to eat more stuff and go high again.
Yeah.
It's all about balance, especially as you got type 1 diabetes, well, any diabetes. It's all about balance there. It's all about balance when you get older.
Exactly. Well, all right. Yep. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you all next time.
Okay. Good luck and have a great day.
All right.
Bye.